Shalom from Israel, I'm Ariel Ben Abraham. We continue this week with our commentaries on the book of Psalms after a 2-year interruption. Many things happened, many things are going to happen. So we are pleased to be back. We also want to continue our commentaries in Spanish and on other subjects like the Midrash, the oral tradition in Judaism. But at the moment, let's continue at least to finish the second part, three parts in the book of Psalms. We're in the second part now, so let's continue. So this is Psalm 58. It goes like this. Do you rulers indeed speak justly? Certainly speak justly? Do you judge people with fairness? No, in your heart you devise injustice, and your hands mete out violence on the earth. Now, King David is referring to the judges in the courts during his times and also in future times. We have to approach the book of Psalms in a timeless way. What do I mean by timeless? He refers to his time, to the time that he lived. He refers to things that passed before him. And he also refers about future events. So there are many psalms that, as we mentioned in other commentaries, that clearly refer to the end of times or future times. So of course this is objectable if there was justice corruption in King David's times, or he was referring to future times. So we can understand them both ways. We have to understand that the fact that he was the king of Israel, that didn't give him jurisdiction, so to speak, to interfere in the justice system. The justice system is independent from the government or the kingship in this case. Although the king of Israel can be a judge. We saw this, we have seen this. King Solomon, King David himself judged many times. But in this case, he's referring to judges who are imparting justice, doing justice in the country. In other words, there is a legal system in which they do justice. The justice was decentralized for the government. It was an independent, as we see now in modern democracies. Now you see the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary as different separate branches from the government. So in this case, he's referring to judges who are corrupt. So he's confronting them. So why are you judging wrongly, unfairly? And he had the answer. He said, you indeed do judge unjustly. Now, we have to understand in a deeper level who are these judges. Sometimes we have judgment. So that person has a good judgment. So we hear that all the time. Meaning that the person has the capacity to discern between good and evil, right and wrong. So he has a good judgment. He has the capacity to identify where is something wrong and correct it. Or at least call for attention in order to fix it or to correct the situation. So we have judges in this sense in our consciousness. So those judges are our principles. So we have moral principles in regards to many aspects of life. It's like we are in situations in which you have to judge, meaning we have to discern what we should do, what we must do, what we can do. and what we are compelled to do. In other words, there are things that we need to act on. So this is one of the aspects of this, one of the meanings of this psalm. Okay, so we need to know what part of our consciousness, what beliefs we have. By beliefs, I mean principle or something that we rely on in order to act, and see if we are, if it's right or wrong. So sometimes we have ideas, beliefs, or conceptions about things that are wrong. So then we misjudge, which is the case that King Davis is addressing here. And of course, every judgment that we make, every decision, every choice we make has consequences. So in this case, saying, and in your hands mete out violence. In other words, the consequence of this is a non-peaceful state. So we're not talking necessarily about violence in terms of you gave this opinion, you made this judgment as a judge or as a person who could influence your surroundings, and the result was called violence here. Something wrong, something not good, something incomplete, something unpeaceful. Okay, so let's continue. Even from birth, the wicked go astray. From the womb, they are wayward, spreading lies. So what he's saying is that evil people are born evil. Now this is kind of make us think. What are we going to make out of all this? So people are born evil. In other words, there's nothing, even from the womb, they're lying even from the womb. So when we see people have the tendency, some people have the tendency, they're prone to be evil. Now, how do we address that? So there is an entire whole debate about good and evil. We maybe in other commentary we address this issue. Actually, lately, as I mentioned before, I have been involved in studying the oral tradition, the Midrash in Judaism, and they debate these things. And this is a philosophical approach to Judaism. It's like, why these things happen? So why these things? And then we will address good and evil, because it's a huge topic. It's not just half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours. It's many hours, really. Just to mention one aspect of it, it's like we can conceive evil as a separate, as an entity, as an independent entity that many religions consider that the devil, evil is around looking to do evil, to exist as an entity. Okay, in Judaism, that is partially believed in a different way, but this is also believed. But at the same time, there is the rational aspect of evil. So we understand evil as a perception, something that we understand as such. When we perceive good and evil based on the circumstances. So if something is useful, productive, encouraging, positive, it's good. The opposite is evil. So we're not talking about here as an entity that does evil or inflict evil on some people. So we have an understanding that everything depends on how we evaluate things. they're good or they're bad. It's okay. It's relative according to cultures, beliefs, religions, etc. And again, what King David is saying here is like, there's some people who have the nature, the tendency to choose evil. We have mentioned in many of our commentaries here in these videos and in our blogs that in Judaism, God the Creator, He created good and evil for us humans to choose. So we have free will. In other words, there is no free will. We cannot choose between two opposite quality things. So we need to know in order to discern. It's like, oh, this is better than this. So in other words, evil was created as a reference in order to choose goodness. But that's the idea. We have said this many times. So when we see a potential evil in a situation or a person, then we have to realize, we have to make the judgment. Let's say, this person is not acting in the right way because of this, and that. And then we try to correct the situation for the common welfare of everybody involved with that person. So in this case, yes, some people have the tendency to make evil a choice, not a reference. It's not nice, but that's what happens. We see that with some radical religious beliefs. This is fundamentalistic religion, like the fundamentalistic Islam, for example. It's the jihadist mentality. It's like it's a warrior like that they want to impose the belief on other people. And if people don't think or believe like them, then they are infidels, they are unfaithful, whatever. And they kill them or they force them to convert to their beliefs. So we have to be careful with this. Because in Judaism, when we impose these kind of things, it's evil. Because the idea is to make goodness prevail. That's the fundamental ethical principle in Judaism. It's to make things better. Tikkun olam, to fix things, to fix the world. In other words, make it better. Because sometimes the things that are broken, it's impossible that we can put it back the way it was. But we learn from this in order to avoid breaking things again. That's the idea. So when we make misjudgments, violence happens. Violence in this case, again, is the disruption, the breaking of a balance. It's a violent act. It's like inflicting on other people. It's a sort of violence, either ideological, religious, cultural, whatever. Okay, let's continue. Even from birth the wicked go astray, from the womb they're wayward, spreading lies. The venom is like the venom of a snake. It's destructive. We have to, one of the nuances, qualities, so to speak, of goodness and evil is that we can see what are they about. So when we see goodness, for example, we know that it's about something positive, enhancing, improving, healing, comforting, constructive in general. And then when we see evil, it's actually the opposite. So it will have the tendency to destroy, while goodness has the tendency to build. So this is what King David is talking about here. Like that of a viper that has stopped its ears, that will not heed the tune of the charmer, however skillful the charmer may be. In other words, you see this charmer, that use the flute, and instead playing the flute and the snake is moving. And in this case, the wicked people, David is using the allegory of a snake, an enchanted snake. This god is not able to, be able to be enchanted. In other words, to move according to the enchanter's sound. It's deaf. So no matter what the charmer do to the animal, the animal ultimately will kill him. So it's like, basically it's unredeeming. It's like some evil is irredeemable. So the evil cannot be redeemed because it's evil. We redeem goodness when goodness is hurt, wounded, blocked, obstruct. Then we help. So we redeem goodness, we vindicate goodness, we bring it back. We enhance goodness. We empower goodness. We make it grow, make it bigger, better. Opposite to evil. He say, break the teeth in their mouths, oh God. David is asking, remove evil from human consciousness. So break the teeth, like don't let them speak evil. Don't let them speak wrong. Don't let them speak violence, destruction. Now, why he's asking God? Because God created evil. And again, let's understand it. We have to insist on this because it's important. We have to understand that this is a reference. It's not a choice. Because we may ask, why God created evil? Why he has to inflict evil on us? No. We have to remove evil from our midst, from our consciousness, from our thoughts, emotions, feelings, beliefs, ideas, thoughts, and in this case, instinct. It's like this compelling instinct, compelling force to do evil. But David is, of course, David is addressing the Creator. He's like, please, let's put an end to this. And God answered already. He said in the last book of the Torah, the Hebrew Bible, the book of Deuteronomy, we have commented this in our videos here. He promises to eradicate evil from the face of earth. So he will wipe out the memory of Amalek. Amalek is the representation of evil, of the perennial antagonist of goodness, the perennial enemy, nemesis of Israel throughout the ages. So God promised us, even before we enter the promised land, at the end of time I will, to say at the end of time specifically, but at some point when I gather you back into your land, evil would be wiped out. The memory of Amalek would be wiped out. But again, we have a job to do. If it's in our power to do that, we have to remove evil. So we cannot just put the situation on God as King David is doing. Like, you did it, you take it out. She said, yeah, we have to create the circumstances. We have to like take the first steps. I said, we want it so badly that you remove evil from our midst, that I personally, in my individual condition, I will do that on my own, or in my own consciousness, in my own environment, in my own surroundings. I will do that. And then you have peace at home. First you have peace with yourself, then peace at home, peace in the neighborhood, peace in the city, peace in the country, peace in the world. That's the idea. So, break the feet in the mouths of God. Lord, tear out the fangs of those lions, basically wild animals. Let them vanish like water that flows away. When they draw the bow, let the arrows fall short. May they be like a slug that melts away as it moves along, like a stillborn child that never sees the sun. See, David is using strong allegories. Call them animals, and they want them not to see even the light of the sun. You know, to have life, basically. Before your pots can feel the heat of the thorns, whether they be green or dry, fresh or dry, the wicked will be swept away. Now David is getting the answer from God. You have to say that this will happen at some point, at the end of times. The wicked will be swept away. The righteous, the good people, will be glad when they are avenged. It's not like a vengeance, it's like will be basically compensated. When you have been living a life of suffering from the hands of evil people. Evil people would be wiped out. And I say, we're talking about evil people, we're talking about evil. Now, David here says clearly, some people are evil, they're born to be evil, from the womb. Okay, we don't argue this. But we have to understand that evil, again, we have to repeat this, doesn't exist as a separate entity, as an exterior entity that is around you somewhere. No. We have to remove the evil approach to life. Then we will be redeemed individually and collectively. When they dip their feet in the blood of the wicked, the good people will dip their feet in the blood of the wicked. These are strong allegories to say that we will step on. In other words, it's not going to be something that would be on our heads. It will be something that is going to be below, under our feet. Like dust. So it's like, so we walk basically completely unharmed because there's nothing evil that can touch us. That's the idea. Then people will say, is to end the psalm, surely the righteous still are rewarded. Certainly there is a God who judges on earth. Now, this can be understood in many ways. Usually people try to understand it literally. Like, we have a God. Therefore, God is not that unfair. At some point, He will remove evil and we're going to be happy because only goodness will be in our midst. Now, we need to understand, like in Judaism, we understand God as a principle. not like an old man with sad eyes or anger or who is angry or whatever. Doesn't work that way. Those are allegories. Judaism understands God, the God of the Jews, as a principle. The goodness, for example, is a principle. Cause and effect is a principle. We call it Elohim. Then we abide, we live life by that conception. So when God judges the earth, we're talking about that goodness is the ultimate goal, the ultimate purpose of life in this world. That's God. That's why King David, many times, at least 7, 8 times in the entire book of Psalms and in the book of Chronicles, he called God good. See, Odu Lashem Kitob Ki Leolam Hasdo. Let's be grateful to God because His goodness. He is goodness. His loving kindness, which is goodness, an expression of goodness, is forever. It's interesting because we don't define God in Judaism. It's no definition. But we understand that He relates to His creation as a principle, or principles. And goodness is the utmost, the reference for His creation. Meaning that we here, we are the result of an act of divine goodness. Divine in the sense that is beyond our human fathoming, conception. But that's the idea. So with this we finish our commentary for today on Psalm 58. I hope that you are happy to share these thoughts, these insights. And we wait for your commentaries as usual, questions, impressions, so we can keep this going for the highest good of everybody. So have a beautiful week, full of abundant blessings. Shabbat Shalom, and until next week.